Potter and the Chamber of Secrets by J.K. Rowling. Chapter 11. The Dueling Club. Harry woke up on Sunday morning to find the dormitory blazing with winter sunlight and his arm rebound but very stiff. He sat up quickly and looked over Colin's bed, but it had been blocked from view by the high curtains Harry had changed behind yesterday. Seeing that he was awake, Madame Pomfrey came bustling over with breakfast tray and then began bending and stretching his arm and fingers. "All in order," she said, as he clumsily fed himself porridge left-handed. "When you've finished eating, you may leave." Harry dressed as quickly as he could and hurried off to Gryffindor Tower, desperate to tell Ron and Hermione about Colin and Dobby, but they weren't there. Harry left to look for them, wondering where they could have got to, and feeling slightly hurt that they weren't interested in whether he had in Bones back or not. As Harry passed the library, Percy Weasley strolled out of it, looking at far between spirits than last time they'd met. "Oh, hello, Harry," he said. "Excellent fly-on yesterday, really excellent. Gryffindor had just taken the lead for the House Cup. You earned 50 points. "Why, haven't seen Ron and Hermione, have you?" said Harry. "No, I haven't," said Percy, his smile fading. "I hope Ron's not in another girls' toilet." Harry forced a laugh, watched Percy out of sight, and then headed straight for Morning Metal bus room. He couldn't see why Ron and Hermione would be in there again, but after making sure that neither Filcher or any prefects were around, he opened the door and heard their voices coming from a locked scuttle. "It's me," he said, closing the door behind him. There was a clunk, a splash, and a gasp from within the cubbyhole, and he saw Hermione's eyes peering through the keyhole. "Harry," he said, "you gave us such a fright. Come in. How's your arm?" "Fine," said Harry, squeezing into the cubbyhole. An old cauldron was perched on the toilet, and a cracking from under the rim told Harry they had it lit a fire beneath it. Conjuring up portable, waterproof fires was a specialty of Hermione's. "We'd have come to meet you, but we decided to get started on the polyjuice potion," Ron explained, as Harry with difficulty locked the subcicle again. "We decided this is the safest place to hide it." Harry started to tell them about Colin, but Hermione interrupted. "We already know we heard Professor McGonagall telling Professor Flitwick this morning. That's why we decided we'd better get going." "The sooner we get a confession out of Malfoy, the better," started Ron. "Do you know what I think? He is such a full temper after the Quidditch match. He took it out of Colin." "There's something else," said Harry, watching Hermione tearing bundles of Notgrass and throwing them into the potion. "Dobby came to visit me in the middle of the night." Ron and Hermione looked up amazed. Harry told them everything Dobby had told him, or hadn't told him. Ron and Hermione listened with their mouths open. "The Chamber of Secrets had been opened before?" said Hermione. "This settles it," said Ron in a triumphant voice. "Lucius Malfoy must have opened the chamber when he was at school here, and now he's told dear old Draco how to do it. It's obvious. Wish Dobby to tell you what kind of monster is in there, though. I want to know how come nobody noticed it sneaking around the school." "Maybe it can make itself invisible," said Hermione, boarding leeches to the bottom of the cauldron. "Or maybe it can disguise itself, pretend to be a suit of armor or something. I've read about chameleon ghouls." "You read too much, Hermione," said Ron, pouring deadly swings on top of the leeches. He crumbled the empty place-swing bag and looked around at Harry. "So, Dobby stopped us getting on the train and broke your arm?" He shook his head. "You know what, Harry? If he doesn't stop trying to save your life, he's going to kill you." The news on Colin Creevey had been attacked and was now flying as though dead in the hospital wing had spread through the entire school by Monday morning. The air was suddenly thick with rumor and suspicion. The first year were now moving around the castle in tight-knit groups, as though scared they would be attacked if they ventured forth alone. Ginny Weasley, who had sat next to Colin Creevey in Charms, was distraught, but Harry felt that Fred and George were going the wrong way about cheering her up. They were taking it in turns to cover themselves with fur of boils and jump out of her from behind statues. They only stopped when Percy, pathetic with rage, told him he was going to write to Mrs. Weasley and tell her Ginny was having nightmares. Meanwhile, hidden from the teachers, a roaring trained in talismans, ambulance, and other protective devices was sweeping the school. Neville Longbottom brought a large, even smelling green onion, a pointed purple crystal, and a rotten tail, before the other Gryffindor boys pointed out that he was in no danger. He was a pure blood, and therefore unlikely to be attacked. They went for Filch first, Neville said, his round face sweeble, and everyone knows I'm almost a squib. In the second week of December, Professor McGonagall came around as usual, collecting names of those who could be staying at school for Christmas. Harry, Ron, and Hermione signed her list. They had heard that Malfoy was staying, which struck them as very suspicious. The holidays would be the perfect time to use the Polyjuice potion and try to worm a confession out of him. Unfortunately, the potion was only half finished. The steel needed the bicorn horn and the broomslack skin. The only place where they were going together was from Snape's private stores. Harry privately felt he'd rather face Slytherin's legendary monster than have Snape catch him robbing his office. What we need, said Hermione briskly, as Thursday's afternoon double potions lesson loomed nearer. It's a diversion. Then one of us can sneak into Snape's office and take what we need. Harry and Ron looked at her nervously. I think I'd better do the actual stealing, Hermione continued in a matter-of-fact tone. You two will be expelled if you get in any more trouble, and I've got a clean record, so all you need to do is cause enough mayhem to keep Snape busy for 5 minutes or so. Harry smiled feebly. Deliberately causing mayhem in Snape's potions class was about as safe as poking a sleeping dragon in the eye. Potions lesson took place in one of the large dungeons. Thursday afternoon's lesson proceeded in the usual way. 20 cauldrons stood steaming between the wooden desks, on which stood brass kettles and jars of ingredients. Snape howled through the fumes, making wapish remarks about the Gryffindor's walk while the Slytherins sniggered passionately. Draco Malfoy, who was Snape's favorite student, kept flicking pufferish eyes at Ron and Harry, who knew that if they relitated, they could get attention faster than you could say unfair. Harry's squealing solution was far too runny, but he had his mind on one more important thing. He was waiting for Hermione's signal, and he hardly listened as Snape paused to sneer at his watery potion. When Snape turned and walked off to Bill and Neville, Hermione caught Harry's eye and nodded. Harry ducked swiftly down behind his cauldron, pulled one of Fred's filibustered fireworks out of his pocket, and gave it a quick prod with his wand. The firework began to fizz and sputter. Knowing he had only seconds, Harry straightened it up, Luke aimed and lobbed it into the air. It landed right on the target and Goyle's cauldron. Goyle's potion exploded, showering the whole